It's a nice warm day. Enjoying working on my tan. I thank you for coming and joining with me for this important development. Canada's Arctic is under threat. Here are the facts. In the fall of 2022, the Canadian military found and retrieved Chinese monitoring buoys in the Arctic. And just last summer, a Canadian warship on patrol encountered a Chinese polar research vessel in the Bering Strait of Alaska. Despite its borders being approximately 1,500 kilometers from the Arctic Circle, China now considers itself to be a, quote, near Arctic state. The Department of National Defense last year also noted, and I quote, Russia continues to modernize and build up its military in the Arctic, investing in new bases and infrastructure. It also possesses robust.
This plan has sparked debate over national security priorities and funding for a
Arctic naval presence with submarines, surface combatants, and an icebreaker fleet much larger than those of other Arctic powers. The Pentagon also warned of potential Russian action in the Arctic, including jamming GPS satellites. Hostile powers want our resources, our shipping routes, and to be in striking distance of our continent. Let me be clear. The Canadian Arctic belongs to Canadians, and Canadians will take back control of their Arctic waters, Arctic skies, and Arctic land. After 9 years of liberal incompetence and disdain, our military is weakened and our allies no longer respect us. Our safety, territory, and trade with the U.S. requires we take back control of our north. This gigantic area makes up 40% of our land mass and 75% of our coastline. 140,000 patriotic Canadians call it home across 72 communities. Since time immemorial, the Indigenous peoples have triumphed over harsh climate, harvested land and sea for food, and passed their precious traditions on to their children and down the ages. We grew up on the folklore, fur traders, explorers, and others who charted the Northwest Passage. Writers like Robert Service, artists like the Group of Seven, and Inuit sculptors shaped our polar identity. We are the true North, strong and free. As the world grows more dangerous, our brave men and women in the Canadian Armed Forces, especially the mighty Canadian Rangers, must have the resources that they require. That's why the last common sense Conservative government invested in the North, the Arctic Patrol Ships Project, on top of investing in the naval facility in Nanisivik, which is due to go online this year. But then the Liberals took office and failed our North and our forces. And Canada still doesn't have a permanent military base in the Arctic, while at the same time Russia has reopened Soviet bases and expanded its Navy's northern fleet over the last few decades. They've also developed new hypersonic missiles designed to evade NATO's defenses. What do you think they want those for? This is a wake-up call. We need to become self-reliant and protect our interests and our sovereignty. That's why I'm announcing today part of my Canada First plan to take back control of the Canadian Arctic. 1, we will double the size of the first patrol group of the Canadian Rangers from 2,000 to 4,000 Rangers. The Canadian Rangers provide self-sufficient mobile forces to support the military. They often report suspicious and unusual activities while providing local knowledge and expertise to the broader Canadian forces. 2, we will acquire 2 additional polar icebreakers for the Royal Canadian Navy. These icebreakers will be on top of the current icebreakers that Seaspan and Davie shipyards are already building for the Coast Guard. The Liberals have promised these 2 heavy icebreakers, but not said when they will deliver them. I will deliver the Coast Guard icebreakers by 2029. And they will be on top of the 2 new Navy icebreakers that I just mentioned. So to sum up, Under our common sense conservative plan, Canada will get 2 new heavy icebreakers for the Coast Guard and 2 new heavy icebreakers for the Canadian Navy. 3, the Canada First plan of the Conservative government will build Canada's first permanent Arctic military base since the Cold War. It will be CFB Iqaluit, right here in this community. We will build it in consultation with military experts, local government leaders, and the Indigenous population. Iqaluit already has a functional a forward operating location and a functional airport and seaport that can accommodate the Canadian forces.